Some synonyms for tenacity are persistence, determination, perseverance, doggedness, single-mindedness, strength of will, firmness of purpose. All words we have been used to using at various points in our lives, particularly in our careers and professions. So how can being tenacious help you when you're going through tough times at work? Especially if you're in a career you didn't study for or plan to be in. Essentially, how does one build career muscle despite? Let's ask my guest. Temitope Omole is a seasoned growth marketing leader with over 15 years of experience driving business performance within several marketing and growth functions. She's a dynamic professional who has been privileged to work successfully within various areas of specialization in the marketing field, building and managing novel strategic propositions for diverse industry verticals from luxury fashion to finance and asset management, telecoms, technology, and FMCG. Welcome, Temitope. I'm really quite excited to have you here.
Thank you, Feran.
I'm sure some of our people are watching and like, hey, what are they going to talk about? Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So what does tenacity, building career muscle, mean to you?
Well, I mean, for me, it's really about the opportunities that we allow ourselves to have or that we allow ourselves to explore as we go through this career, not ladder, but career roller coaster, right? In my view, the way that we have been trained to think about career is a linear, you go up the ladder one step at a time. But in reality, the world as we are living in it today is never that way. There are peaks and troughs, there are twists and turns. And so what really that means, building tenacity means to me, is allowing yourself the opportunity to grow from every single peak, every single trough, because we know in reality, no season and no situation lasts forever. So building tenacity is really just how do we allow ourselves to glean as much as possible from every experience that we find ourselves in order to really grow and become that sort of giant that we want ourselves to be in our careers.
You sound very, what's it called? You sound very professional. So tell me, what has been your lowest point from a career perspective and how did you glean from it?
So for me, I've had a number of different seasons in my career. One of the most sort of pivotal seasons for me was when I was abruptly let go from a company that I'd worked with for, almost 5 years. And I had come into that company, really highly celebrated. I was promoted in the first year and just over a year. It hadn't been done before. People were like, trying to get me from different departments. I was literally like a hot cake, as you would like to say. I was a golden child. And then all of a sudden, 2 years down the line, they were like, they were doing downsizing. They couldn't, my role was no longer, required. And imagine someone who had come from, I've always sort of used my performance as a notch on my back, like it gives me sort of fulfillment. And I had always been somebody who, worked tirelessly, but ensured that, I gained those accolades. Now you're telling me you no longer need me. Of course, that was a huge dent in my ego, my pride, my sense of identity. It was a huge, issue for me, and I didn't know what next, right? I'm a planner by nature, so I like to know what next. I didn't know what next.
Yeah, that's why you kept sending me like 1,000 messages about this interview. Temitope is a planner
I am a planner by nature.
So how did that impact? How did you then navigate through that?
It was tough. I had a period of time. Thankfully, I was surrounded by a lot of, supportive friends and family that allowed me to sort of retreat into myself. First of all, I did take the time. Okay, I was in an emotional turmoil, but I took the time to actually think about what it is that I wanted to be doing. Right, bearing in mind that I had allowed myself to explore different areas of marketing. So I sat back and now decided, okay, in reality, Temitope, if you did want to go back into the workforce, what exactly would you want to be doing? And I upskilled myself in that season. I learned a new skill that I'm actually using as a side hustle. I really developed my own interior. That is, I started to realize that my job itself was not what made me me. Prior to that, that was literally my whole identity. And so I used that time really to go inwards and determine for myself what my future was going to be. So I started mapping out my own future rather than waiting for somebody to tell me, where next to go.
Yeah. So it sounds really helpful, but what if you went through that and then you thought, am I even in the right job? How do you then navigate through that? Because if we keep talking about building career muscle.
Absolutely. So if you find that you're now, after you've gone through your, introspection, you've realized now that you're not even in the right field, the truth is, I dare everyone to allow themselves an opportunity to explore. All right. So I was talking to a mentee of mine recently, and she's very much sort of a Gen Zer who, believes in exploring she wants to do every single thing in the world. And I said to her, you know what, do it. Right? Explore everything. If you find that you're not in a career in a career that's fulfilling for you, the likelihood is that you probably just ended up there because that was what was available. But how about you open yourself up for internships to work in places that you never thought you could? How about you explore? If you want to be a writer, try and do some writing, put it out there and get some feedback. If you want to be a construction worker, avail yourself of those opportunities because they are there everywhere. It's just that people are usually waiting for the highest paid thing, the thing that will give them the most sort of accolades and
Yeah, because I was going to say, isn't the ability to even do that based on privilege? Because if you need money to not only survive as an individual, but also help your family, be it your biological family or your, you can't really do that.
So if that's the case, and I love the fact that you said it's a privileged position to actually be able to explore, but I find that we limit ourselves a lot to, this is the job I have, so this is the only thing I can do. I don't believe in that at all. In fact, one of the things that experience taught me was that you must sort of allow yourself a broad spectrum of things that you are doing per time. Okay, so if you're in a career or in a role where you think, this is not my best place, whatever, you don't have to leave it today, right? But you do have the opportunity to be able to explore in the other hours of the day that you have, right? So look at me now on a Saturday where I would usually be doing my own side business. I'm doing this now, right? The reality is that we have more time than we think we have. A lot of people are like, Nigeria is tough, it's difficult, we don't have any time in the day, but you do have time. If you dedicate an additional 1 hour a day to explore something of interest to you, you will eventually be able to upskill yourself to the point where you will be paid good money to do that. We were talking just before about my side business, and the truth is I did a lot of things for free when I was first starting, alongside my business or my job at the time, which was my business. So I did a lot of freebies. I learned as I was doing. I made a lot of mistakes as I was doing those things. But now I'm able to charge whatever I want for the service that I am providing because I have become an expert in that area, whilst also still working in a career. So today I can decide, this job I'm no longer finding fulfillment there. I'm going to focus only on my business. But that's because I was able to sort of expand my tentacles a little bit beyond just one job. Does that make sense?
And how does that connect with building tenacity?
It's exactly that. Allowing yourself to explore. Tenacity comes from you seeing the challenges in front of you and not recognizing them as a reason for you to stop, but using them as an opportunity to lift yourself up. So as I said, at that point in my career where I was doing nothing, I wasn't just lying in bed every day crying and sad. Yes, I did lie in bed and cry and sob and all of that, but I learned new skills. I applied for new jobs. I eventually got a job and still continue to build my additional skills. So today, everybody that knows me, they call me like a consummate hustler, right? Because I have my job, I have my agency that I still have on the side, so I have clients all the time. I have my other side business that is more work of my hands, so I have a lot of things that I'm putting my hands into, because at the end of the day, I want to be a well-rounded professional who is not dependent on a job or a company for my livelihood, right? So if tomorrow somebody says to me, oh, thank you very much, you've done a very good job, but we no longer need you, I'm not going to find myself on the back foot, because I have all these other things that have built me to where I am today.
Okay, what would you say to, I'm going to give you two groups of people, to the older people who used to say, stick to one thing and be known for one thing, yeah, and to the younger people who want to do everything. So your two buckets.
So I have those conversations a lot with my dad, who is someone who, by the grace of God, was able to work in one company. Well, he worked in other places, but he stayed in one place for 25 years, grew and became, very senior in the company that he worked for. And for him, looking at me sort of jumping from job to job and doing all these different things, in his mind, he's like, but which one is your main thing? And I say to him all the time, I have no main thing. All of them are my main things, because I'm growing all these skills together at the same time, so that I can be well-rounded, and so that I'm not at the mercy of any one of these, things that I'm doing. So to them, I say, the world has fortunately or unfortunately changed to such a situation where, most companies are flat structured. So a lot of people end up in a place where they're sad or unfulfilled in jobs, if that is all that they're finding themselves doing. The more that you expand yourself, the more you can actually find a sense of fulfillment in the work of your hands. So for me, that's what I say to my dad all the time. I'm really growing and finding purpose in all these different things that I'm doing. Now, for the Gen Zs who are doing every single thing, the truth is they have the luxury of time on their hands, right? Right now, they are young. I say go for it. Right? Of course, I'm not encouraging flightiness or, jumping from one thing to another sort of willy-nilly.
Or not being focused. Because going for all of it could be the opposite of being tenacious.
It depends, though. So like this mentee of mine that I was talking to, she wants to be a graphic designer. She wants to be a comms expert. She wants to do... I can't remember what else, but she has a number of different things that she can do. She thinks she can do. And I've said to her, explore them all, but have in the back of your mind that you are taking skills from each of these different things for you to be able to build one profile for yourself, right? At the end of the day, maybe being a comms expert allows you to sell yourself a little bit more for your design work. If your design work is the agent, let's say you build an agency and you want to be doing that as your main focus. Comms will allow you to be able to go out and sell yourself, right? So ideally, explore as much as you can, but realize that ultimately you have to get to a point where you have honed all those skills well enough for you to be able to drive not one, but a main focus, if that makes sense.
It does. But then what about, so you've now told the older people that it's okay to be multifaceted, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah. But they're raising children, and there's this, I don't know whether to call it a clash between ideologies and what people like you are saying and what the Gen Zs are saying. So it's almost like three different things in a pot. What do you tell these parents to help us build the leaders of tomorrow?
To be honest, I think I'm more skewed towards what the Gen Zs are saying, except that, of course, there's always some level of balance that's required there. So what I tell parents all the time is, listen, let your children go for what they have the most interest in, because that is where they will excel. That's the reality of life. Wherever they find, purpose, wherever their skills are the most easily to attain, the easiest to attain, pardon me, that's where they will excel. So I was just talking to my sister the other day, and she has a 7-year-old boy who is super artistic. He wants to, every time that he has drawing to do or piano to play or, all those creative things to do, he loves it. He throws himself in fully. I say, hey, he's going to continue to be educated, but allow him to explore those other areas of his life where he finds joy. Because ultimately today, there's so many, the career pool is so much broader than doctor, lawyer, nurse, teacher, whatever it is that was in their time.
Yeah.
Now there's so much that people can do and earn from. So don't limit your children is the main message.
And how do those children build career muscle in the process if they are seemingly flighty?
Seemingly.
Because you need it.
Seemingly is the operative word there, because they seem like they're flighty, but they will have those things that they find joy and purpose in. My constant thing is, whatever it is that you find to do, let there be purpose flowing from it, right? So if, Gen Zs always have a message. They always have something that they want to say. They always have something that they want to push. If a Gen Z person comes to you and what they want to do is, I don't know, they want to be a social activist, right? That is a thing. They find their blood they find purpose there. So allow them to continue to do that. However, you would have to support them in realizing that being a social activist means that you will not have plenty of money, but if this is what you're going to do, focus on it and do it well. Does that make sense?
It does, but still, there's that push and pull thing that's going on that happens throughout your career, because your career is the largest chunk of your life. So how do they then navigate through that? That elasticity. How do they get that?
I think that the fact of exploring is what gives you elasticity, Feran, because if you're sitting in one place doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, there's very little girth to your experience, right? And so you have only one perspective, right? So if you are, by contrast, if you are a Gen Zer who has done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things, their perspective is a lot broader. And there's so much more that they can bring to the table when they do decide, okay, I'm old enough now, I've decided what I want to do, and they sit and focus on that.
I hear you, but I'm still going to ask the question maybe in a slightly different way. Even if you're doing what you love, even if you're doing multiple things that you love, yes, there are going to be times that you hate your career. There are going to be times when you feel like, oh my God, I'm not in the right, I'm not fulfilled, even if you were fulfilled maybe previously. Or you may even love your career, but then you would have some really dark moments. How do you navigate through that? Because that is when, in my opinion, you're able to really build strength.
Well, I mean, I can't really understand let me try and understand where you're coming from. If you love your career and you find purpose, in my view, if you find purpose in what you're doing, you will always have a reason to keep doing it.
True.
It will not be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but you will always find a reason to do it because there is a purpose behind it. A good example is if you decide that you want to start a fintech company and what you want to be doing is helping market ladies develop financial acumen. Okay, it's not going to be easy. You will find regulators that will want to stop you. You will find traditional banks that will want to stop you. Pardon, I hope you don't have any sponsors for traditional banks. But you will find situations where you will find lots of blockades down the road. But the deeper purpose is that you want to build financial acumen in these women. You've decided that is your purpose, and so blockages won't be an issue for you. You will find that even with those challenges, you will go home, you will cry, you will be sad, you will want to throw in the towel, but that deeper purpose is what will push you to keep trying again and again and again.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So if you were going to give a 20-year-old 3 to 5 pieces of advice.
Ooh, 3 to 5.
Can be 3 on how to build muscle. What would it be?
Okay. First one would be, do not restrict yourself ever. Don't ever limit yourself to one thing alone. Allow yourself the ability to explore. 2 is, don't worry about the seasons. or the peaks and the troughs, because nothing lasts forever. The reality is that even the successes will end at some point. The low periods will end at some point. So don't be stuck in any one season. Allow the ebbs and the flows of life to just happen, okay? And I say that to myself all the time as well, being a planner, as you know. And I think the third thing would be, establish what your deeper purpose would be. What is your deeper purpose? What is the thing that you want to leave this earth having done? What is the one thing, or maybe not one thing, what are the things that you want to leave behind? We're always talking about legacy, and a lot of time people talk about legacy when they think about their children. But think about what legacy you want to leave on this earth as an individual, and that should be able to push you and egg you on, as you go through life.
This has been awesome, as I knew it would be. Temitope is a wealth of knowledge, and it's always really, really interesting talking to Temitope. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you. Sister locks.
Yeah. Thank you once again for being our guest today. John, Helen, and myself are going to very quickly round off the show. So please stay tuned for a few more minutes whilst we do this. Thank you.